and see if it's seeing anything. But anyway, finally got myself a laser pointer, and it's actually also a distance meter. So the distance to that wall is about
golf rangefinder. I need a 372-yard shot. Here.
About five and 3/4 meters, but also it's a says that wall is 23.2 centigrade. Okay, and all of the physics that's being talked about is what works in this. So it's tested every day. I got my laser pointer. And by the way, there is this Google Earth. Woodland Park is about right there. Yeah. Anyway, I better. I got a lot of material to go through, really. So this is. Are we going?
I thought Paul was going to open the group.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. That sort of got because of the conversation and the.
Okay, let me make sure that one's turned off.
We're recording, not streaming, so we can always have a redo.
Okay, you should be good there, Paul. There's a switch on the top of the mic. We flip it on up.
No.
Testing?
No.
Not up?
Yeah,
Okay, it's going there, not through a speaker.
I don't have speakers. Yeah, it's just recording. And we're recording, so go ahead.
Okay, welcome to the November meeting of the Pikes Peak Economics Club. We're on the campus of beautiful Colorado Technical University, a private, for-profit, stock exchange-listed company, which makes it the most interesting university I've ever worked in my life. First place I've ever been that was not openly hostile to my philosophy and general ideas of market-based economics. So, the university fully supports this, gives us a classroom, and it's a wonderful place. They'll send some students. We need some students. Thank you. We would like more students. We have tonight Bob Armstrong. His bio is posted on our website. The website is pikespeakeconomicsclub.com. And when you go to the website, if you click on the calendar, you click on today's date, November 5th. And on that is the event for today, which is Bob Armstrong speaking on global warming. And in that link, you will find this PowerPoint, and you'll also find a link to his bio. From reading his bio, it sounds like he was fairly precocious, giving his instructors a hard time about math when he was in 7th grade. So nothing has changed.
So.
All right. So I want to announce we have 2 new books at the library. One is courtesy of the Peak Freedom Forum and the Woodford Foundation. It's by Tom Palmer from the Cato Institute, Why Liberty? So any of those books over there are, as usual, free of charge. Just promise to read them and pass them on. And a brand new one, donated by Arnie here, from the Pikes Peak Economics Club, Tom Sowell, one of my favorite economists and authors, Inside American Education. So these will be posted at the Economics Club. Now, unlike in the past at the Vanguard Library, where we used to just have the books there and you fill out a slip and take them out, they're now squirreled away in my office. So you have to just let me know in advance. Go to the website, click on the library, take a look at our 300 plus documents, books, DVDs, and tapes. If you want to check out anyone, let me know and I'll bring it to a meeting. Do not forget that the cookies and drinks and snacks are not free of charge. There's a suggested donation of $3 to $5, so please hit up the kid when you get a chance. And with that, does anybody have anything they want to announce or say to the club? Okay. Bob, if you don't mind for a minute, we'll just kind of do some introductions. I see some faces that haven't been here for a while. Is that okay with you? Okay. Right. So who are you and what do you do?
I'm Russ Josephson, and I'm a software engineer for EMC Sierra.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Next.
I'm Don Schley. I teach project management. I book the project management program here. I'm a practicing project management professional.
I'm Chuck Corey. I have the Equal Justice Foundation here, and getting all kinds of trouble.
Okay. Bob?
Bob Spear, I'm retired commodity broker.
Dennis Perio, I'm retired. I work for Command Sciences Corporation.
Arnie Harper, I'm retired
from?
Military, physician.
Okay, good enough, thanks.
I'm Chris Baum, I'm a retired computer geek.
A lot of retired folks.
Harry Kneff, executive recruiter. Steve Hoskins, worked for a small hedge fund.
Trace Melton, Rocky Mountain Streams, and Mary Sennett, and I'm a psychiatrist, and I do a lot on health reform, and I think you all know this is a very busy season right now.
Mary, would that be market-based health reform or government?
Free market, patient-centered, simple, affordable, and accessible. Everything that we're not getting right now.
Okay. For those of you that don't remember or haven't been here long enough, Steve Hoskins is the treasurer of the club? He's the treasurer or secretary, I can't remember. One time we had formal officers. And so we thought we'd make him a fellow of the club, which makes him a jolly good fellow. So. Next month, should things work out, the first Tuesday in December, we're going to have a discussion of eminent domain, and it's going to be very interesting. It's the guy that headed up the Farmer Rancher Coalition who was fighting the eminent domain takeover from through Pinyon Canyon of Fort Carson. So we have a conflict of interest here between the military and the citizenry, and he's going to present his perspective on what happened there. So it'll be very interesting. In January, if things work out, we're going to have a woman who escaped communist China, having grown up there very, very poor, surrounded by death and destruction and disease, and poverty, obviously. Ran into an economics professor who was traveling around visiting her little village, and she ended up getting $100 somehow and escaped and got out. Came to America, and now she runs an investment company in Denver. It's a good story. In February, we're having a gentleman that's the president and owner of one of the major gold mining companies in America. He's going to come in and talk about his operations, the relationship of his business to environmental restrictions, and perhaps talk about his outlook on the gold market. That's as far as I've booked. So thank you all. And let's hear from Bob Armstrong. Okay? Thanks, Bob.
Is this the guy? I guess, yep, I guess that's me. Okay. Yeah. This is, well, we'll get to it. I've already showed you my little prop here, that this is now every time anybody uses an IR thermometer, they prove this stuff, if you will. One of the things, John Christie, who's looks at the satellite data, and so he's clearly skeptical, but I really like this phrase, law of sustainability. If it's not economically sustainable, it's not sustainable, which I think everybody here would agree with. Now, one of the things that is seen is utter stagnation is a symptom of non-science. Ken Iverson, who's one of the great people in computer science, any field of study that has the word science in it probably isn't. And climate science is just unbelievable stagnation. It's not science. It really is just a branch of applied physics. When you consider semiconductor technology, another branch of applied physics, that's gone from mega to giga, but there's been no progress in, and you'll see that in the next couple of slides, which have been added recently. And there's this disconnect, which I've seen before, of in-paradigm career scientists from fundamental classical computations. And comments from a couple of friends of mine, Willie Soon, who's at Harvard, and actually now he's thinking of going back to China for academic freedom. Howard Hayden is down in his thing's abandoned, garbage in on these models that they got. Garbage in, gospel out. And Howard Hayden, who couldn't make it up here from Pueblo today, who's a retired physicist from UConn, if it were science, there would be one model instead of 30. Now there's 73 models. But to show the utter stagnation, this is a guy, the AR5 report from the UN, IPCC, just came out, and this is its range of, well, here, more seriously, let me put this in perspective with the most boring graph I've ever plotted in my life. And this is the likely range of climate sensitivity as a function of time, going back to studies in 1980, okay, this Charney thing in 79. In other words, after perhaps billions of dollars invested in climate research over more than 3 decades, our ability to answer the most important question of climate has not improved a single bit. Now, actually, in an email last night, Cork Hayden sent me this. As the models diverge more and more over time from what the actual temperature has been doing, the IPCC's certainty keeps increasing. Back in, when was this? 2001, they said it was likely. It was 50 that it was caused by human. Then in 2007, 90%. In this most recent, now they're 95% certain that at least 50% of the warming has been due to our sins. Now the zero, stupidity, trumping even the physics. We'll get to the physics later, but we exist only because all the oxygen that we use was locked up in CO2 until photosynthesis emerged. We couldn't have existed if there had been any free O2, because it would have burned up the complex molecules that were forming. But then since green plant, and I've seen an estimate that 30% of the atmosphere was CO2. Since then, green plant and shell-forming life has driven CO2 down to just a few molecules per 10,000 of air. Actually, there's less than argon in the atmosphere. It is self-evident that the epochs when the conversion of the atmosphere from CO2 to O2 was going on, it deposited the massive coal and probably petroleum reserves, and they were very lush ages. I mean, just, this is the insanity of the idea that, life is CO2 plus H2O. You get 6 CO2s plus 6 H2Os, and you get 1 sugar molecule, and you get 6 oxygens. And the idea that this molecule is evil and is going to kill the life it creates is mind-boggling. And it's one of the things, there's a lot of information in this, actually it's one of my favorite slides, but here actually is experimental. This guy Sherwood Itzo and his son have been very involved in this. I think this is a brilliant graphic. You've got actually a graph made out of living pine trees. When you add 150 parts per million, 300 parts per million, 450 parts per million, which would get us way beyond any expectation. Well, it's self-evident. You can see the pines, love it. And actually, overall, since 1980, 17% of the world's vegetated areas are greener, seen from space. And both CO2 and in labs, you get about a 33% increase. A 33% increase in CO2 produces about a 30% increase in biomass created. Here actually is a recent analysis, image from space that shows the areas that are greener and less green, not very many of those. But CO2 is visibly greening the planet as seen from space.
What's the gray area on the west side of South?
Actually, I'd have to, there is the, if you go to check the website and so forth, obviously Greenland doesn't have any.
Right.
Up here, it may have been, obviously the Sahara is just blank. I guess these areas are
He's
just...
asking about the Atacama Desert.
Yeah, the Atacama Desert down there by South America,
Yeah.
northern Chile, southern Peru.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
plain of Nazca.
Yeah. It hasn't made no change. Okay, one of the things is, this is actually, everybody knows absolute temperature and Kelvin scale. Okay? This is the actual changes in Kelvin. It just happens that CO2 concentration, essentially from the invention of the steam engine, was about 290 parts per million. and the Kelvin temperature is about 288 or so. CO2 has gone up about a third, has gone up about 33%. Temperature has gone up from maybe 288 Kelvin to 288.8, 0.3%. And one of the things is, again, this is getting beyond most of the alarmists, is if you do a simple linear extrapolation, obviously, what, you might get another 0.8 degrees. And to have a nonlinearity there, oh, here's more detail actually. If this is measured CO2, this is mean temperature, and this is the variations in, max and min temperatures since, the 1895, I think I'm seeing, yeah, something like that. But again, you can see that there's, CO2's been going up. Here's another one, final one, that puts things in perspective. Year-to-year variation in weather dwarfs any impact from long-term shift in climate. This is from, that quote's from Judith Curry, who's a academic who's seen the light and just seen the fraud and so forth. And it's from the thing, why farmers don't believe in anthropogenic global warming. I mean, and now this is an improvement on a graph from Richard Linson at MIT. This one, this is the yearly mean temperature in Chicago. Okay, yeah, max min, and max and min temperatures in Chicago by the month. And the thickness of that line, is the 0.8 degrees change over the century, over more than a century. Now we get into the physics. And this is, I hope everybody, I mean, we can go quicker if everybody understands that the colors are different frequencies, spectrum, and so forth. And in a way, why I've gotten diverted into this is literally when I was a nerd reading boys' science books back in grade school, during the Eisenhower administration, there was this question, I mean, good questions. I don't remember people, but I remember ideas and questions. This book posed a white and a black stone sit in the desert sun, which gets hotter? Okay? And we'll go down a little bit to get to the answer. And as I've said, planetary temperature really is an issue of applied physics. And it's much simpler than climate because it's more like gas laws in a sense. You're just looking at the envelope, and that's what I'm doing. You want to get into the eddies, much more difficult question. The method of physics is to quantitatively understand geometrical arrangements so simple that they can be experimentally verified. And this is something that has just been, I don't know where it is in modern education. We will consider constraints imposed on the temperature by essentially that view of the planet, looking at it from the outside. So it's the planet and the atmosphere together. And so we will consider how to calculate the equilibrium temperature of a radiantly heated, opaque colored ball, like our Earth. Here's some real science. My niece graduated in applied math and physics, and dog ate her electrodynamics book, so I finally read electrodynamics. But I mean, and one of the things is this is partly because of a ongoing email conversation with Joseph Bass, who runs Harlan Institute. Because I'm just lucky you're not getting the basics. This book actually I got a couple of quotes from. It's this guy Richmar, the preface of the first edition in 1928, and actually I on Amazon got the 42 edition. But a couple of quotes that I think are excellent. Ever since Kepler proved that the orbits of planets are ellipses, relations expressible in quantitative form have carried greater weight than those which could be stated only qualitatively. And numerous important discoveries have been made by investigating the next decimal place. And one of the things is shown above, the entire change we're seeking to explain is on the order of the third decimal point, tenths of a percent. You'll see that 97%, all but 10 degrees of the observed 288 Kelvin, is explained simply by adding up the energy we receive from the sun. How do we explain the rest? Contrast this, Michael Mann. Have any of you heard his name? Michael Mann is famous for the hockey stick and ClimateGate and so forth. And this is a recent quote from him. "Proof is for mathematical theorems in alcoholic beverages. It is not for science." That's
a humanities statement.
That's
not a science statement, that's a humanities social science.
Yes, yeah, actually.
That's an oxymoron.
It's like what happened. When I first moved out here from Manhattan, I'm going to cycle this thing.